C, which basically, which does say that for any Department of Consumer Protection license, certificate, registration, or permit that requires the holder to complete continuing education requirements, the continuing education requirements shall be completed within the annual or biannual period that begins or ends 3 months prior to the renewal date for the applicable license, certificate, registration, or permit, except for licenses issued pursuant to Chapter 400J, which is not accountants. Now, when I first read that, I thought, well, surely does not change the accountancy CPE year. And I asked that question of our legal director and of our legislative liaison, and I was told no, that it does change the year, which is obviously currently July 1st to June 30th, and because it's going to be changed, and this is as of October 1st, so the current year is still in effect, but starting October 1st will be a new year, be October 1 to, well, I guess September 30th would be the new year. We had a internal discussion with our licensing division and with our legislative liaison and our legal director about how to proceed here. The other thing too is, the irony is the idea, licensing liked what accountancy had, which was a set year. I guess sounds like a lot of the other licenses that had education requirements, they were all over the place, and they wanted to basically follow what is done with accountancy. And my understanding is it was licensing's part of the bill, and their thought was it would not affect accountancy, but unfortunately it feels that it is. So the problem that we now have is our current law, the 20-281D subsection F, refers specifically, this has to do with the late fees, specifically to the June 30th deadline, which that will change, and also has two separate fees levels depending on whether or not the minimum of 40 is completed before September 30th or before December 31st. So those, I guess, those need to be addressed, I guess, is the issue before us today.
So, Ms. Bonnie, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Frank, do you see, we did not believe that this section applied to us either. And there are some complications that arise if we're going to change the CPE season. One, we did survey our members on this, and our tax members really don't like having it in the fall because they've got a September 15th deadline, they've got an October 15th deadline. But more importantly, probably, if we want people to get quality education, and Lisa can speak to this better than I can, it really requires us to work in collaboration with the other, in particular, Southern New England states. And their season is exactly the same. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut is currently the exact same CPE season as ours. If we switch it, it becomes more difficult for us to offer because we're all offering the same program, sharing resources. And Lisa, you could jump in and probably say something better than myself, but we're concerned that if we break away from that same time period, that our members won't have the same opportunities for CPE. It's just changed dramatically since COVID started.
So let me ask two things. One here is, it also seems to me that you'd get an orphan 3-month period here when the switch. And what are we going to do with that? Just trash the hours? But I'm just curious, what was the purpose of this?
Yeah.
Well, the purpose was to bring the other DCP credentials in line across the board. So it'll be easier for licensing to be able to know when the CPE or I guess, there's the different areas know when the CPE periods are for the other ones.
But isn't this kind of a something where you keep a piece of paper with the different licenses split between groups? And wouldn't it actually make it easier to deal with if you've got not everybody at the same time? This looks like a solution in search of a problem.
Well, not all the licenses are annual, are calendar year. Some are, they're, I don't, I'm not licensing, so I don't know what each one is. Some
It's
are
more-
different. Go
But
ahead.
that would seem to
I'm
make it
sorry.
still even easier if
No,
you're spreading things out more.
It's more doing everything at one shot at year end, as opposed to doing each different CPE requirements all scattered. It's easier for licensing to send out notices for all license type all at once and have that renewal cycle start and be done with it. It's not going to change the expiration date for them. They still have to report by year end. They're just moving the completion of the CPEs further out. Actually, if you look at it, they're going to have, instead of June, they're going to have up until September 30th.
Right, so they've pushed for one group of licensees, they've pushed it into one of the worst possible times.
Why is it the worst possible time?
Because of the
April,
tax year schedule.
right. Okay, those are the extensions, correct?
No,
Those, or, okay, then, because when the CPEs were all at one time in May, it got pushed out to June because of the tax season starting,
Right,
and then they had up until April. So now,
Which
Did you
was,
talk about the
Wh-
person.
which was a
income-
lot later than I can remember.
But I
That's it.
think that the confusion for a lot of people, John, is that they think there's one tax season and only one tax due date, and that's April 15th. They forget about the partnership returns, the corporate returns,
Returns, the not-for-profit
15th.
returns.
September and
Mhm.
October as a busy season, even though it's crazy, but most people that don't know taxes or don't know accountancy don't understand that the fall is a bad season. It's a busy season.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's a busy season for certain auditors,
Audits,
nonprofit
right.
governments as well.
Yeah.
Could we change the year instead of a calendar year, that the renewals are due September 30th and still fit into the new law? And then June 30th would be the CPE date, but the renewal date would be September 30th?
How does that help the education issue, the tax people?
Because
Does that make it even worse for them?
it did,
It's
then
just a
it changes
registration.
our date to
Oh, I see what you're, no, I see what you're saying.
yeah,
I see what you're saying.
except it then changes the licensure
Right.
time.
which
in
honestly,
In
I'm
modern
sorry.
technology, I just don't see that this provides enough benefit for what we've done.
okay. Honestly, the changing it to an expiration date in September is not helpful on our end anyway, because it is now, they go through December and still can't renew, and I still have people going through June and still not renewing. So if there's gonna be busy for them in September, how are we gonna get them renewed
Well, it's a lot,
even
it's
sooner?
it's a 30-minute process to renew and upload all your data
Absolutely, it is.
versus an
but-
8-hour process or 40-hour process to take the CPE.
John, may I make a comment?
Certainly.
As Bonnie mentioned, my real concern is that, I've been with the society over 30 years, and I can attest to the majority of members being procrastinators.
Yes.
And, CPE, the quality CPE that we're partnering, with other states on, and I definitely look at the CTCP as a go-to. They obviously have other options, but if there is not, programming running in July, August, and September, which, independently, the CTCPA would not be able to offer them as nearly as much as what we could when we're partnering with the other states. I fear that they're all going to be procrastinators, and then they're going to be in a tax deadline or an audit deadline with not a lot of options, or, low quality options. There's a lot of free vendors out there. However, many of them are, giving them free CPE so that they can get them, involved in looking at something else or purchasing something else. And my concern would be the quality of the education that's available during that time. To the live programming. Obviously, we have other products, but the education that we bring, I just look at it as a higher quality of programs that's available to them.
I would say that it certainly seems like we would have a hard time backing this and saying, well, this is to make it easier to administer. That doesn't seem to make sense.
This is Carla. Can I ask a question? Is this an act that's already been enacted, or is it a proposed legislation?
It's in effect. It
It's in
passed. It's
effect.
well, it's effective October 1st, but it was passed and signed.
All right, so we can't amend the statute to exempt the county if we wanted to.
Well, I'm going to get in trouble with this, but we did discuss that internally. I mean, that was an option.
Yeah,
But that's doable in February, correct?
Right. It would have to be the upcoming session.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Okay. Then the other thing is, I understand that the Connecticut Society partners with other states, but a lot of those people that you're partnering with, remember, all those CPEs are also out of state, that they report out of state and don't have to report with us. But neither here or there, we could, if Frank can manage it, we could leave it at as of June 30th. If the overall consensus with everyone, and if it's doable to be changed in February, proposed again and amended.
Aren't
So
there
it
other
stays.
programs that are exempted from this deadline now? They didn't pass it across the board for everybody, I don't think, right? There were a couple of exemptions already.
As far as DCP licenses, there was one, just one. It was
Just one.
and it was chapter 400J, which I haven't looked that up.
So we
Not
could just
sure.
tack on.
Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
thought, was to tackle one to the other exemption.
You guys, I just say, because again, pharmacy. It was with
pharmacy.
pharmacy.
Okay.
Again, we have discussed that, and then I don't know if change, and one of the concerns was that if we start adding another one, and we're gonna get another and another and another adding, and like we're gonna be back where we were before. That was just part of the discussion.
which we as CPAs don't really mind. Just a comment. I mean, we've been part of under the DCP for what, 2-3 years? And
Yeah,
in
this is
that
six.
time, I found, I found that it's been a well-run organization. People at DCP are quite capable and professional. And we did something that I see that has a modest, if any, efficiency improvement and nobody checked the unintended consequences.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was not aware of this. I will say that. And even if I had been and I asked about it, I would have been told that it was at least by our licensing people, and maybe I would have checked others, that it was not going to affect the county. But
Actually, oh, sorry. I was
No,
just going to say that, yeah, it was proposed by licensing to bring up all the licenses to one fiscal year, or that reporting to September, just 3 months prior to the expiration dates. But it was to exclude the Board of Accountancy. That was the whole deal, because of the late fees that would have needed to then be refigured or adjusted again because of that expiration, or because of that CPE time period. So it was supposed to exclude it. It got wrapped up in everything else is what happened when they passed the,
And correct that by excluding it now.
sorry?
We could correct that by excluding accountancy now from the general provision.
That's legal would have to implement that.
Yes, exactly.
Right, right. Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Well, it sounds like we need to have a motion here.
I'll make a motion that we do whatever processes are necessary to exclude the State Board of Accountancy from this change.
Second,
And question, do we need to put a reason in there? I'll ask our lawyer, Frank. Do we need to modify
Yeah,
that
I guess it
motion?
wouldn't hurt, because I'm gonna, guys, yeah, we'll have to, there's gonna be internal resistance to this in DCP, I think. So we may have to call on you, Mr. Chairman, maybe someone else might want to be involved to help with our, have an internal discussion with our legislation people, just to let them be aware of what the concern is.
So I will amend my motion to say, because of the significant due dates for taxes and auditors that exist in the fall.
and I'll second that amendment. Can I just say that, if it can get out of the DCP and somebody's following it, I was a legislative legal advisor in the General Assembly for several years. It's not that hard to put in an exemption like that if you got somebody that's shepherding it, and it shouldn't be that much trouble. You just have to pay attention. So I really think, I agree with John. It was probably the law of unintended consequences, and we just need to get it straightened out.
And before Carla seconds my amendment, we should also say, and because of our current partnering with neighboring states on the deadline.
Yes.
Difference. Can I just mention that it's because if it was a regulatory process, it would be easier to amend. This was not. This was a legislative change, so it was by statute. So that's why it's going to take until February to go back and have it changed. For just for the accounting, see,
Yeah,
but
we actually understand. Our experience actually has been that legislative changes actually happen faster than regulatory changes in Connecticut.
That's true.
well, it depends if it's just a little amendment.
Frank, I'd be willing to speak to Leslie. I'll have Craig give her a call to explain the season so she understands where we're coming from.
Okay, that would, yes, that would be helpful for this motion, yes.
And Representative Barry is a CPA and reaches out a lot when there's legislation on that too. So I'll touch base with her just in case we want someone inside to be an advocate. Usually Leslie handles everything without any issues, but I'm here to do whatever you guys need. But I'll have Craig talk to her.
Do we have a motion on the table? We go back.
And I think we're waiting for a second from Carla to the amended motion.
I second the amended motion.
Okay, We
Is
have,
not the amended motion?
we
Pardon
have
me?
a motion and a second. Means time for discussion, if any further discussion on the motion. Hearing none. Everybody except for Martha, who doesn't have video this morning because of technical issues, raise their hand, and then we'll give a space for Martha to answer orally. Martha?
Yeah, I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the motion is passed. Next item. Problem with Zoom meetings is I've got to scroll back and forth because I'm too cheap to print everything in the world.
John, could I just ask Frank what's going to happen in the interim between now and if this is going to go into the
Right,
change?
well, actually, there'll be no change for the current year. So because this is in effect October 1st. So the current CPE year still ended June 30th and will be the law for the upcoming licensing year for the next calendar year. So our thought was it would have been taken effect. Well, it would have, anyway.
October 1st.
If nothing changed, then the next people would have an extra 3 months next year for next year's.
So the compliance
Year
for the
after.
current year is through June 30th,
Correct, June 30th, yes, yes, yes.
2022.
Right, yes.
And then the next compliance date would be
September
September 30th,
correct.
23.
22.
So
22.
So to confirm, Frank, the current CPE year, once October hits, June 30th of 22 will still be the ending. Okay,
No,
perfect.
No, that's not right. No.
Right, that's what I was.
Yes, it is.
No, September 30th of 22 would be the new CPE year.
Yeah,
Correct, right, 22.
Okay.
So it sounds like with this going into effect October 1st, then individuals will, instead of having 12 months to complete 40 CPE hours, they're going to have 15 months.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
if we're
Okay.
sure of that, because the way it's
Correct.
written, it almost sounds like it starts on October 1st, and then we've got an orphan 3 months.
And then if we move it back, do we have 9 months to get 40 hours?
Well, if it's moved back, then
It's the same.
it
We're
would be
back
the
to
same
where we
as
were.
currently.
With,
Correct.
it'll stay the same. It'll stay the same.
Oftentimes,
Nobody will know.
Right.
just from a legislative perspective, and I'm sure Carla and Martha see this all the time too. When you're trying to address something in terms of an unintended consequence from a piece of legislation, oftentimes they'll make it retroactive. So if it's passed in February, if it's fast tracked and passes at the beginning of session, it may pass during this current year where people are thinking still that it's the usual July 1 to June 30th. There may be some people that find out about this law in the meantime and get a little bit switched up, but usually it's passed retroactively. And then there's a grace period for people that caught in the confusion.
yeah, that's common.
Okay. Moving on to item 2, response to NASBA regarding the draft exam for CPA evolution.
Yeah, that's the.
And Denise, thank you for attending. If you don't want to put up with this, what'll be boredom going on, we won't mind if you disappear.
If I go for Friday.
All right.
Yeah, no, I don't know if Frank mentioned that we now have, or is that coming up on the agenda, I guess, that we now have an online process for new
Oh.
applicants.
That's
I
number
see that,
4.
yes.
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
Okay.
It's working pretty good so far. So that's all I wanted to mention. So if you guys, I could leave if you guys want to continue, that's fine. I mean, I don't need to be, I need to go back to other things. So,
Right.
all right. Have a good weekend, everybody.
you too.
Then I'm leaving.
Bye.
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 Bye, Denise.
Bye, Denise.
Okay, I'm sorry, Frank.
No, that's, yeah, that was good. She jumped ahead to item 4, so. Which is, quite frankly, that was all I was gonna say too on that. Okay, so this one, NAS was sent out that survey, I guess it is, and it looks like it's filled, could be filled by individuals, but I just thought it might be helpful to just, if the board wanted to just talk about it and then decide whether you wanted one person to reply to the questions or just have everyone reply on their own. And this is due, the problem was this is
The
due
7th of
before the next
September.
meeting,
7th.
right.
Yeah. I have to admit, I didn't go into the survey, but I went through their materials. And as far as I could see, the materials were wonderfully complete. I'm not quite sure what I could add. But I think it might be useful if some of us filled out the survey anyway. If for no other reason than the powers that be understood that people actually read their stuff. And
As far as I could tell, we couldn't see the questions in the survey until we filled out our name.
that's correct.
Right.
Right.
Because I tried to go in there and do that and print out them ahead of time. I didn't want to answer, I don't want to get in a position where I would have to answer before the meeting, so I didn't go too far.
That's as far as I got to.
Oh, perhaps it would be, rather than, I don't think it would, if we said we were going to have one person go for the board, I'm not, we don't even know whether you're going to be able to do it as, quote, an entity. It's probably better that we just go ahead and recommend that board members respond to the survey.
I'm in agreement with that, John.
Yeah.
I think we need just to identify amongst ourselves who might fill it out. I'm not going to fill it out because I don't, I mean, I don't know exactly what the questions are, but I may not be qualified to answer them since I'm not a practicing accountant. But I mean, I think some of us should fill it out.
Well, I'll be glad to fill it out and
Put my name down.
and chuckling all the way, wondering whether I could have passed the new exam.
All right, I'll make a motion that we have John fill it out on the board's behalf.
I'll second that.
And anybody else who wishes to fill it out, please feel free to go ahead. Do we have to vote on that?
Who was the second motion?
Martha Triplett.
Martha. Okay,
Okay.
we have a motion and opportunity to respond, and please, nobody make any comments on competence. Okay. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, oops. And we're to, oh, David Katz again.
Right, well, because you would table the discussion last time to, I think, I don't know, take a better look at what he'd submitted, I believe, and then we're going to look at it again.
So I wasn't at the last meeting, but I did watch it on the video. And I did read the paperwork, and then in a general sense, I think that if we were to say yes to something, I think we would have an awful lot of setting a precedence that I don't think we want to set.
I mean, I can sympathize with Mr. Katz, but at some point, I mean, our prime function is quote, protection of the public and end quote.
Right.
And I'm not, and I think there's just unintended consequences for opening up floodgates. And Mr. Katz doesn't need a CPA to do what he's doing. It's a business card issue. I hope somebody else will call so the little yellow square will disappear from around me. So any other thoughts? I mean, he hasn't submitted anything in addition, has he, Frank?
No.
At some point, you've got to keep up with the letter of the law. Well, if we tabled it, do we need a motion to dispose of it?
Well, you think you do need a motion to, you do need a motion to make
Yes.
the decision one way or the other, yes.
Yeah, final decision. So I will entertain a motion.
So move. I'll make a motion to reject his request for CPA licensing.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the table and a second. Any further comments? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried. Okay, we've done online initial application and we have 3 extension requests.
Yes, yes. The first is for Francis X. Conlon. He is asking for, these are all for continuing professional education. First, he's asking for an extension just till July 29th, so it would actually be kind of a retroactive.
I thought we already extended everyone to July 31st.
Yeah, you did. No. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I apologize. He's looking for August 31st. I don't know, he did not fill that one out correctly. Yeah, he's in his note here. He had said he had open heart surgery in March, and due to the rehab, had not been able to complete the CPE hours. He had done 36.5 as of July 29th, 2020. And was asking for an extension to July 31st, and he has notified me that since then that he did complete the 40 hours that in August. So he has gotten the 40 hours, and he did submit a doctor's note that here it is. Yeah, that he had undergone the surgery in March, and so there is confirmation, medical confirmation about that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any comments or discussion?
Because the meetings are recorded, should we limit what we say about the medical issues?
Well, I mean, he submitted it. I try to give as little as I can, but
Okay.
I mean, and that's fair. I mean, I guess that's probably the separate discussion. I try to give as little, but how little do you want? Do you want
Big medical issue, little medical issue.
Okay, and do we have confirmation? I can do that.
Confirmation.
What was that last?
It was big, middle, I was supposed to say big medical issue or little medical issue, so.
Hangnail
I can do
versus
that.
open heart surgery.
And confirmation, right, okay, I can do that.
But now, let me just say, in general, I agree, but I can think of cases where I really wanted to have some sense of what was going on. I mean, I think in general, that's a good general guideline, big issue, little issue. But we may need, even if it is recorded, to get a little more information in some cases.
That's fine. I just don't want to get us in trouble. And
Right.
you're the attorney, I'm not.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm kind of lost on where we are. Did we get a motion and a second?
Second was Pete, correct?
Correct.
A motion on the table. Any comments, further comments? And okay, all in favor?
I
Aye. Okay. Next is Roy K. Lewis.
Yes. All right. Well, there's also a medical issue he's looking to extend through September 30th. And this is a pretty big, long-lasting medical issue, I will say that.
And does he have documentation?
Started out now, just started really almost right before the beginning of the CPE year last year, and has gone throughout the year. And we do have confirmation.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. And then we have Denise Pepitone Sweeney.
Okay, now, she is actually, she's looking forward to the end of December. This year is December 31st, 2021. It's also medical, but not for her. It's for caring for parents. Both are in their 90s, and she's the primary caretaker, life organizer, medical directive, and medication administrator. She said, it's been a very grueling and time-consuming year for my parents and their duties and caring, and is asking for an extension to, again, till December 31st. And she asked, finally, please grant this request. I'm always on time and have been up to date with all requirements. I didn't get anything, as far as regarding the parents and their medical conditions or all. I could ask for that for the next meeting, but that's what I do have.
And what are we allowed to approve for? Because don't the statutes tell us what we're allowed?
It's for military, medical, or other good cause. Oh, she also checked good cause just to be sure.
Can I say something about good cause? I mean, we do have the Family Medical Leave Act, which obviously I'm not saying it's applicable in this situation, but I think you can analogize it. And there's been a trend in our society to acknowledge the fact that there may be a special caregiving requirements at certain stages of life in one's family. So I think that is good cause in my mind.
Okay,
I agree with what Carla said.
well, then I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the request for, it was a request for extension, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes, move to approve the request for extension.
I'll second that. This is Martha.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Then this is a special meeting. We don't have anything listed here for new business. I don't know whether we should entertain any.
No, because it's a special meeting, you are
Fair boot.
required to stick only to what's on the agenda.
Okay.
That's why we had,
Understood.
no new business and no comments from the outside other than on the agenda items.
Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll
I thought
second.
I thought everybody
second.
jumped faster at that one. Motion is second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Have
See
a
you
good
all
weekend,
September.
everyone.
Good weekend.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a great
good
weekend,
rest of your
everyone.
summer.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.